Do you know what I love about my phone the most? It's the flashlight. I mean it. Seriously. I use the flashlight on my phone every single day. When I get up in the morning, I'm usually the first to get up, and I don't want to disrupt anybody. I don't want to start flipping on light switches. So, what do? I get out the flashlight on my phone. Or even when I'm at work. When I'm at work, I got to make sure that everything is clean, everything is up to par. Sometimes I can't see exactly what's there, but I tell you what, if I turn that flashlight on my phone, usually does the trick. Or even when I get home at night. When I get home at night, it's usually dark. I got to clean up all the wrappers in my car and the trash and things. And so I get out my flashlight on my phone. I'm just kidding. I don't ever clean my car. The point is this: I do use the flashlight on my phone all the time because it helps me see what I can't see. It reveals things that I didn't even know it was there. And it makes it really, really easier to fix things. That's what light does. Last year, light shined on my life. I was in the middle of a terrible season of my life. I was living in sin, I was in pain, I was hurting other people, and someone brought it all to the light, and I was forced to address it. I left ministry, and I had to go to work on myself, and I had to go to work on rebuilding the relationships around me. Now, when that all happened, when it all came to the light, it was really, really painful, and it was really, really hard. But here I am over a year later, and I can say today that I am so thankful that someone decided to shine a light on this situation because it forced what was in the dark into the light. And now that can be really scary and can be really painful, but it makes the possibility of something beautiful. Because today I've been able to address the issues that were hidden in the dark. And today, my relationships with my family, with my friends, with God are better than they've ever been. I'm healthier and happier because someone decided to shine that light in my life, and me and God were able to go to work on the unhealthy, dark places in my life. It's been amazing this last year, just the work that's been done in me and around me, but also too so many stories of other people who are going through the same kind of dark spots in their life. People have come up to me and shared all kinds of stories with me, things that they're dealing with that are close to what I dealt with. Things like unspoken resentment, withholding forgiveness, childhood wounds, triggers, addictions, anger, expectations of others, divorce, affairs. I mean, I have heard some horrible, painful stories that are still being lived out that date back 10, 20, 30 years ago. It's been amazing how, as my story has come to the light, other people have kind of stepped out of the darkness as well and said, hey, me too. There's so many of us doing it today. We're operating in the dark and we're trying to keep the dark at bay as best we can. People give us opportunities to be honest and to step into the light, but when they ask us how we're doing, we say things like, I'm fine, even though we're not. We work harder and longer hours. We stay busy in order to numb the feeling and not have to address the darkness. We reach for things. Sometimes they're good things, sometimes they're bad things, but sometimes it's just anything to feel better, to give us a high. We use all kinds of modes to cover what's really going on inside of us. You know, psychology actually has a name for this. Psychology calls this repression. Instead of exposing it with light, we hide it in the dark even more and we avoid it. Freud studied repression, and Freud said this: repression doesn't remove pain, it buries it alive. Freud believed that we never actually deal with the issue, we just try and bury it even further in the dark. But Freud recognized something, that burying it never kills it. The only way to deal with what we're repressing is to expose it, to bring it to the light. Brene Brown puts it this way: what we don't name, we can't change. I want to say that again. It sounds so good. What we don't name, what we can't change. What she's saying is this: what remains hidden can never change. What remains hidden becomes hurtful. What stays in the dark becomes a pattern. The only way to move past it, grow from it, evolve from it, is to shine a light on it and let God go to work. As you listen to this, I'm writing this during the Christmas season. And I was reminded in my devotions that what we're talking about is exactly what Jesus came to do. In the Old Testament, God sent prophets that foretold of Jesus' arrival. Isaiah was one of those prophets. So when you flip open your Old Testament Bible in Isaiah chapter 9, there's a classic chapter that's read in churches during the Christmas season. But what you may not have ever heard is the very beginning of the chapter. Listen to how this chapter begins. In Isaiah 9, verse 2, it says, "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned." Isaiah was prophesying about a time when people would be walking in darkness, a time when people would be lost in cycles of pain, shame, silence, and loneliness. And Isaiah says that a light is coming. Now, the Jews had no idea what this meant. Honestly, in their head, they pictured King David 2.0, a king who wanted to be adored, a king who would slay other nations, a king who gave land away and glory to the Jews and the Jews alone. That's what they expected, and honestly, that's what they kind of wanted. But that's not what they got. And we have a better idea of what we got because we have a pretty different idea of what Jesus actually ended up looking like. But the first thing they got that they weren't expecting is they got a baby. They got a baby born in a manger. And Luke, when he writes this investigation, and this investigation ends up in your New Testament Bible, Luke tells us that when Jesus was 40 days old, Mary and Joseph packed their bags and went to Jerusalem. Now, they did this because it was custom to perform a sacrifice at the temple to symbolize dedicating your child to God. So basically, they were going to make a sacrifice and dedicate Jesus to God. Now, when they arrived, there was a man in Jerusalem called Simeon. It had been revealed to Simeon that he would not die before he had seen the Messiah that Isaiah had prophesied about. So God arranged this little meeting. Both Simeon, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, they end up at the temple at the same time. And when Simeon sees the baby Jesus, he knows exactly who he is. And so he politely greets Mary and Joseph, tells them his story. And at this point in time, Mary and Joseph, they had already seen it all. They had met shepherds, they had met all kinds of people. And so it didn't really surprise them. So it's no surprise that they gave Simeon Jesus. And this is what Simeon's prayer is as he's holding this baby Jesus. It tells us the story in Luke 2, chapter 29. Simeon says this: "Sovereign Lord, as you have promised, you may now dismiss your servant in peace. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the sight of all nations." Simeon is basically saying this: God, I can die a happy man now. I have seen the one who will fix what humanity broke. And then this is what Simeon says about Jesus. Now, this is so important. He says in verse 32, "A light for revelation to the Gentiles and the glory of your people, Israel." Now, this is huge. Do you know what Simeon is saying in this moment? Simeon is saying this: this child is the light every human heart has been waiting for. But what do you mean? What kind of light? We always talk about that, the light of Christmas, the light of the world. What does it mean? What is it actually symbolic of? I think a lot of us, when we think of the light, we think of comfort. But see, this is what we get so backwards about Christmas. Christmas isn't about comfort. Now, we do all we can to make it about comfort, right? I mean, we brighten it up, we make everything look pretty, because the truth is, around the Christmas season, we all want to feel better. We want comfort, we want beauty. So we do all we can to try to light up our lives in order to push the darkness away. But that's not what Christmas is about. Simeon is saying in this verse that Jesus, that Christmas, is about the light that came to reveal. Jesus is the light that came to push the darkness away. Jesus is the light that came to reveal what was hidden. Jesus is the light that shows us the reality of things. It's the light that exposes what has been hidden. It's a light that cuts through all the BS and shows us what's real and shows us what's important. Then Simeon says this. Then, and it says this in verse 34, then Simeon blessed them and said to Mary, his mother, this child is destined to cause the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be spoken against, so that the thoughts of many hearts will be revealed, and a sword will pierce your own soul too. Now, those are some pretty heavy words. This is not usually the verse we go to at Christmas. But this is what Simeon is saying. Jesus is a light that is going to disrupt the natural order of things. He is going to expose people. He is going to expose pride. He is going to expose hypocrisy, religious games, secrets, motives, brokenness, lies, pain. He is going to push the darkness away and expose what we have repressed, what we have hidden, what we have lied about, and what we have put a smile on to pretend like isn't there. This is exactly what happened to me. This is what has happened to some of you. But quite honestly, this is exactly what we all need. Jesus came as a light, not to decorate the world, but honestly, to disrupt the world. Jesus came to shine a light on all the things that we have repressed and that we have tried to hide from other people. But listen to this. This is so important. I do not want you to miss this. He is not shining that light to punish you. And I know when the light first shines, it feels like a punishment because it hurts and it's embarrassing. It is painful to step into the light. But I need you to understand that he does it because he loves you. Because although it hurts at first, the truth is that leaving you in the dark would be much, much worse. Here's the thing about Jesus. He loves you enough to not leave you in the dark. So he came. He came as a light to disrupt the natural patterns of humanity. He comes like a light and he pushes the dark away. See, that's the thing about the light, right? The light pushes all the darkness away. The light, man, when the sun rises, the light, it doesn't let you stay asleep. Eventually, it wakes you up. In the same way, Jesus's presence, it forces a decision. It is there to wake you up. It is there to push back all the things that we have lied about, that we have hidden, that we have repressed, that we have refused to deal with. And it wakes you up and it brings you back to reality. And it says, okay, I love you too much to leave you here. Now let's go to work. Here is a truth. You can't restore what you won't reveal. Freud would agree with this. Brene Brown would agree with this. Simeon would agree with this. Because in this story, Simeon is telling Mary, this child will reveal the truth about people's hearts. And when the truth is revealed, the healing can begin. See, light leads to revelation, and revelation leads to restoration. And restoration leads us to actual peace. Not made up peace, not dressed up peace, not phony peace, not I'm fine peace. Restoration leads to real peace. And that's Christmas. Here's what I'm willing to bet. I bet you already know your dark spots. I bet even maybe a couple times in your life, a little light has shined on them already. And maybe you've continued to keep them in the dark. Maybe you've continued to operate in the dark as best you can without a light. But let me ask you something. Why won't you let the light all the way in? Why are you holding back? Why do you keep running back to the darkness? Why haven't you had that hard conversation? Why haven't you got the help you need? Why haven't you made that appointment? Why haven't you been honest? Why haven't you learned what started that trigger? Why have you withheld that forgiveness? Jesus came so you can work through all of that. But what's in the dark has to come out of the darkness first. And I know, dude, that sounds scary, doesn't it? Trust me, I know. I've literally lived it. And I didn't get a choice in the matter. It just got brought into the light. And quite honestly, here's the thing. If you wait long enough, you may not have a choice in it either. Because eventually, God loves you enough to expose it and to put it all out there. You would be wise to get it out there before that happens. It's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of heartache. It's going to save you a lot of money. And it's going to save you a lot of bad memories if you did. The truth is God loves you too much to leave you in the dark. Imagine if this Christmas we actually let Jesus be what he came to be, the light of the world. Imagine if we let that light in, what it could heal. Imagine what could be restored. Imagine what cycles could be broken. You know, at Christmas, we sing all these songs about peace. What if we didn't just sing about it? What if we lived it out? That's why he came. Jesus didn't come to just make the world a little brighter and to bring some cheer. He came to show you what was possible. He came to expose what was in the dark and to bring it to the light. So you didn't have to hide anymore. So you didn't have to lie anymore. So you didn't have to pretend anymore. So you could be molded into what he created you to be. See, he loves you too much to leave you where you are. And so he came for you because he loves you. And that's what Christmas is all about.